Gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Gail, can you give us a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Myers. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Gloria Mills,
Here.
Glenn Brown, Deborah Knoll, or Mike Lacey?
Mike Lacey, present.
Artie Fryer,
Here.
Craig Purcell, David Newell, or Tracy Noyes?
Tracy Noyes here.
Ian Martin,
Here.
Christina Melling?
Here.
Beth Pasek?
Here.
I believe Mark Harshberger is excused. I do still have some people coming in online, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, let's see here. Deborah LaKenta? I do see her online. Deborah, you are self-muted.
This is Deborah. I'm here.
Thank you. Leslie, Dr. Gordon?
Good morning. I'm here.
Alexia Wiggins? Councilman Schisler?
Here.
Kristen Thomas or Megan Krieger?
Here,
Who was that?
Megan Krieger.
Thank you. And I do believe that Kristen is also on the line. Kristen, you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
unmute. Okay, and moving her over. Okay, great. Let's see here, Indira Chambers.
She is running a few minutes late.
Thank you. John Vargas.
John Vargas here. Good morning.
Cassandra Blaylock.
Here.
And is Jerry Stickney or Karen Smith in?
Jerry Stickers here.
Thank you. We do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a vote of consent for remote participation?
Do we have anyone that opposed for consent participation remotely? Anyone opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Gail, Glenn is here as well.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone for public comments? Anyone for public comments? Hearing none, let us approve the minutes. Motion to approve, Beth Pasek.
Second.
We have a motion by Beth Pasek and second by Councilman Schisler. Anyone oppose the motion? Anyone oppose the motion? Hearing none, that motion is carried. I'm going to ask for the board approval. We're going to make a switch on the action items, but it's going to come under the status report for the Fowler Avenue study. Is that okay with the board? We hear this first. Thank you so much. Fowler Avenue study. Staff, go ahead and present.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. I'm going to turn this right over to Ms. Amber Russo from the Florida Department of Transportation. Planning Commission staff will be back later for a little bit more of the Fowler Avenue study. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amber Russo. I'm the FDOT project manager for this PD&E study along Fowler Avenue, which is work program item segment number 448505-1. I'm here to present the status on the project, which we have just recently kicked off. And as Jay mentioned, you will also hopefully be hearing from HART on their closely related study and also your planning commission on their vision study. So as you can see on the study map here, study begins in Tampa at North Florida Avenue and ends in the city of Temple Terrace, just west of 56th Street, which is a distance of approximately 4 miles. The purpose of the PD&E study is to address safety, reduce traffic congestion and improve multimodal accommodations. Improvements being studied include a transit corridor from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. These alternatives include a business access and transit lane or BAT lanes alternative, a frontage road system, and a median guideway. Also, innovative intersections are being studied for the segment from Bruce B. Downs Boulevard to Bull Run Drive. From the slide, you can see there's a lot going on in the 4-mile corridor. Several studies are being conducted on and adjacent to Fowler Avenue in addition to the study. The two project teams you'll be hearing from after me are HART's Arterial Bus Rapid Transit or BRT study, which is shown along Nebraska Avenue, Fowler Avenue, and then it runs north-south on Bruce B. Downs. You'll also hear from the Planning Commission's Fowler Avenue Vision Study Plan, which encompasses a large portion of this map. All these studies will provide the framework for improvements along Fowler Avenue. With the redevelopment of the University Mall area and the addition of a new USF football stadium, we can all agree that Fowler Avenue is in need of improvements to address safety for all of its users. This slide shows all the crashes that have occurred in the project corridor for the 5-year period from 2015 to 2019. As the graphic reveals, there are over 3,300 crashes, with 75% of those occurring at 10 specific intersections. 53 of the crashes were considered severe, resulting in 46 incapacitating injuries and 9 fatalities. Please note, all 9 fatalities included a pedestrian or bicyclist, which is shown on this next slide. Like I said, all these crashes include a pedestrian or bicyclist. In total, there were 120 crashes, resulting in 9 fatalities and 17 incapacitating injuries. These crashes represent 51% of all severe crashes in the corridor. Approximately 88 of the total 120 crashes, or 73%, occurred between Nebraska Avenue and Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, which is where the transit corridor is proposed. I also want to mention the segment of Fowler Avenue from Nebraska to North 52nd Street is listed on the City of Tampa's high injury network. Taking a look at what Fowler looks like today. So from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, Fowler is currently an 8-lane divided roadway with numerous median left turn lanes. There are also 7-foot bike lanes and 5-foot sidewalks located on both sides. The existing right-of-way width totals to 185 feet. The eastern segment of the project from Bruce B. Downs to 56th Street is a 6-lane divided roadway with 7-foot bike lanes and 5-foot sidewalks. And the existing right-of-way here totals to 230 feet wide. Now let's look at 3 alternatives for the transit corridor, which would run from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. Alternative 1 includes repurposing the existing outside lanes as BAT lanes for business access and transit, meaning they would be marked for bus use and for vehicles making a right turn into a business or a side street. This alternative also includes 12-foot shared use paths along both sides of Fowler, and based on preliminary analysis, minimal right-of-way acquisition may be required. Alternative number 2 is the frontage road concept. The frontage lanes would be located parallel to and separate from the main line Fowler Avenue. They would be utilized by non-transit vehicles and would provide access to local businesses. Vehicles on the main line can access the frontage lanes via slip ramps and vice versa. Transit vehicles would utilize the outside BAT lanes on the main line. Shared use paths or wider sidewalks would be located adjacent to the frontage lanes, and minimal right-of-way acquisition may be required for this alternative. The third and final alternative includes a median guideway for transit vehicles only. Stops would be located near intersections and crosswalks to allow for safer pedestrian access. Non-transit vehicles would be permitted to make turns at designated intersections and locations. This concept also includes shared use paths on both sides of Fowler, and based on preliminary analysis, minimal right-of-way acquisition may be required. As previously mentioned, the design of Fowler Avenue has user safety first and foremost. Narrower travel lanes and other proven traffic calming strategies are being considered. To accommodate these measures, the speed limit along Fowler Avenue may be reduced. Also, from Brewski Downs to Bull Run Drive, innovative intersection alternatives will be studied. Also, pedestrian and bicycle facilities will be enhanced throughout the corridor. Innovative intersections are intended for major streets with higher volumes of traffic like Fowler Avenue. They modify vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle movements at conventional intersections to reduce delay, increase efficiency, and provide safer travel for all road users. The FDOT manual on intersection control evaluation will be utilized to determine the best possible intersection designs. These include R cuts, displaced left turns, through cuts, and single loops. Public engagement is underway and will continue throughout the duration of the study. These study kickoff presentations will have been given to all of the Hillsborough TPO committees after this one. And then I'll be presenting to your board in January. The project kickoff newsletters and your packets were mailed to properties along the corridor and sent to stakeholders. Another newsletter will be sent to announce a future public meeting not yet scheduled. The project website is active and will be updated throughout the study. Small group meetings will be held with interested community groups within and adjacent to the study area. Also, an alternatives public workshop will be held once the alternatives are evaluated. A public hearing may be held if necessary based on the preferred alternative. As the schedule shows, public involvement will occur throughout the study. We are wrapping up our data collection and alternatives development is underway. An alternatives public workshop is anticipated for the second quarter of 2023, and if necessary, a public hearing towards the end of next year. Like I said, our website is active and updated. You can also contact me at the information on the slide if you have any questions about the state. And if the committee is ready, I will turn it over to.
Jesus is online.
Oh, great. I'll turn over to our virtual presenter, or I can take questions now.
Yeah, I have a question. Study seems to go to 50, well, it says 56th Street. You're actually stopping at 52nd Street, if I'm, or Bull Run in that location, in that area. What happens to all the traffic that's on Fowler Avenue at that point? Does it all get off the road? I'm setting you up for a second question. How many cars a day are going down to Fowler Avenue?
I have to get those.
I'm going to tell you, it's 57,000 cars a day. Okay, so we're going to go from Nebraska, everybody goes in that USF, come in that USF, we go east, we go west. Okay, as we're going east, the study stops on 52nd Street. Why? What happens beyond 52nd Street? My understanding was that study was to go interstate to interstate. That's lopping off about 2.5, 3 miles of roadway that all those cars don't get off at 52nd Street. They don't get off at 56th Street. They continue down Fowler Avenue, and they may or may not get off at the interstate, or they may go off on 301 and go north or south. Just curious as to why the abbreviated study, and what about everybody, all the accidents? I can think of 3 fatalities beyond 52nd Street, in between 52nd and the interstate. I guess they're not as important as the others. I'm just curious why it stopped there. I know that's not your fault, but I mean, that's a serious question in my mind.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. The reason why our project limits end just west of 56th Street is because there is a corridor study that FDOT is conducting along 56th Street. And then we also have a study from along Fowler from 56th Street to I-75. So the timing of the projects was a little different. So, and this one is, the purpose and need includes a transit element, which runs from Nebraska to Brewski Downs. So those are the reasons that our project ends just west of 50th Street.
Okay, so there is a secondary or tertiary project that's going on all the way out to the interstate, I assume, or?
Yes, and I think they're in scoping right now, but I can get you the information.
I would really like to, if you could, I'd get that, to see information, where we stand in that, because it just seems like it stops at 52nd Street, and that's no way case. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. Yeah, the three alternatives, you may have mentioned, I may have missed it. So how is the decision about which alternative to accept? How is that process going to work?
So right now, we just have the typical sections that I showed you, but the consultant is preparing to create concept plans, so actually laying out those typical sections on the aerials to see what the impacts are, the right-of-way gains, and they'll also be doing a cost estimate for each of the three alternatives. We're also working closely with HART and the services that they are able to provide along the corridor. So if they, if the bat lane alternative, of course, is a lower cost alternative. So if it depends on the operational funding by HART, and if we're looking at a shorter versus a longer term alternative.
So does that mean HART's going to make the decision
As a partnership,
based on cost?
it won't all be based on cost, but we're working together as a partnership to the best alternative. As far as safety as well, there are some safety concerns about one of the alternatives. And public engagement, of course, is why we're.
Are they gonna take into consideration, when they do these, intersections, that once they change it, the congestion, because congestion takes aggression, traffic aggression? Because they've changed some intersections and it's caused more aggression from the drivers.
Like angry drivers.
Like I can say 301, they've done some changes and it's caused more aggression from the drivers, from the frustration.
We are in the middle of our traffic analysis, which will show us what like the heaviest movements and how we can try to accommodate those.
So you'll be back to speak with us in January?
I'll be at the board January 11th.
Let us do this. The next speaker is online and he has a 10 o'clock meeting. And then we can come back to you and continue to ask questions. So we can get to the next speaker.
Okay. Do I need to put the slides?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm looking to share my screen.
Oh, great. So Jesus has it, and yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm fine either way. Let me.
Can someone share the screen so we can see it? See the presentation?
Oh, which screen are you seeing?
The browser, your web browser.
Oh, okay. So I won't be making eye contact because that's another screen. But
There you go.
hello.
We have it now.
Okay, try to make this smaller. Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amber and Jay and Alvaro. Good morning, committee members or board members, I should say, and others present. My name is Jesus. I'm with Planning Department here at HART, and First of all, thank you so much for being so accommodating and allowing us to present earlier and to allowing me to present virtually. You know, they talk about the holiday slowdown, but for all I know, I'll be working through and through. So the intent here is to give you an update on the Tampa BRT study, which is the study that's been going on since 2018, 2019 timeframe. We want to let you know where we're at, what we've done, and how this interacts with the Fowler studies. So the phase 1 concluded in the later part of 2020 that came up with a recommended alignment for the BRT corridor, which was approved by the HART board. And in parallel, there's been a TOD study to devise strategies for implementation of transfer-oriented development on this BRT corridor. That study is still ongoing, and it is slated to end sometime for the end of this year or early next year. And then phase 2A came on early 2021 for the arterial BRT study. This was a low-cost alternative. This looked to come up with a low-cost alternative given the elevated price tag of the recommended alignment and the uncertainty around dedicated funding. The HART board approved this alternative earlier this year and instructed staff to proceed with the design of the lower cost alternative, which is where we are right now. We're working on a scope of work with a consultant to get that started within the next month or two. So that's where we are at. I'll give you like a quick overview of what the BRT corridor looks like, the importance of it, and how this relates to Fowler. And then we'll go street level and compare recommended and lower cost alternatives. So the BRT corridor is the Florida-Nebraska Fowler corridor between downtown Tampa and the university area. The HART's 3 busiest bus routes actually connect these 2 points, and actually 2 of those routes are the Florida and the Nebraska routes. This service would be much higher frequency than what we have today. We have every 15-minute service today. The BRT would be every 10 minutes during the peak period, the morning rush and the afternoon rush. And it would not only serve downtown and the USF area, but it will also serve important neighborhoods like Tampa Heights and Seminole Heights, connecting jobs and residents there to jobs and residents in the ends. The phase 1 came up with a recommended alignment of the Limbaugh Avenue crossover to get from Florida to Nebraska to reach Fowler and the transit center over by USF. Limbaugh was chosen to avoid duplicating the Nebraska service, which is already, it's labeled or branded as Metro Rapid. It is a BRT Lite. There are some enhancements to that service, but it's not as capital intensive as a full-blown BRT would be. And also, it allows us to serve the denser parts of Florida Avenue. North of Limbaugh, it's a bunch of car dealerships. So, you know, I don't think car salesmen take BRT, but. So how does that look for Fowler? I'll caveat this by saying that the station locations are tentative. It's all subject to further analysis, but as it stands right now, there will be 3 stations along Fowler, 1 on 15th Street, 22nd Street, and Bruce B. Downs. And there'll be a 4th station at Nebraska and Fowler, but more than likely on Nebraska, just south of Fowler. The importance of serving Fowler and the surrounding neighborhoods is the latent demand in the area. These are communities with high need for transportation. There is low car ownership. There are several low-income households. You'll hear more about this from the Planning Commission's presentation right after me. There is also transit-oriented redevelopment going on, the most notorious of which is the University Mall redevelopment. But we want to make connections with that and enable access to those activity centers, jobs, entertainment, shopping, etc. It also enables important connections to downtown Tampa, Seminole Heights, and Tampa Heights. So people from the Fowler vicinity get access to jobs there, and people who live in those other places, they get access to one of the biggest employers in the region, which is the USF area. So at the street level, the BRT study came up with these two alternatives. And I emphasize that because this is like preliminary, like I forget how they call it, like 30% design. The PD&E will be like more in detail, more nitty gritty design. And then, you know, there are other steps to follow after that. So don't take this with a grain of salt. Like the FDOT PD&E will be a much more comprehensive. We'll have like more accurate numbers, I should say. The preferred or recommended alignment is bus-only lanes running on the median. This speeds up service, allows for the bus to have priority over private vehicle traffic. It has a lower cost alternative is a 6-lane highway or 6-lane road with BAT lanes on both sides. These are business access and transit lanes, so it would be shared with cars turning right to access driveways or for business access or crossing streets. There is a $40 million gap between the two options. That's why the lower cost alternative was looked into. The operating cost, which is the cost of, you know, the bus operator salary and fuel, maintenance, it's similar. It's slightly higher on the lower cost alternative because it takes longer, because the bus has less priority treatment. So the longer it takes, the more bus operators, the more fuel you need. So that's why the operating cost is slightly higher. So what's next? Oh, I just remember I was going to time myself, but well, too late. The next steps. So as I mentioned, we're working on a scope of work. Actually, Amber, look for an email from me sometime today to coordinate with you about that scope. Next steps. So there would be a design going on. There'll be permitting, public engagement, with which there's been some, but there'll be more. And then seeking funding matches from partners at the federal, state, and regional levels. And then we'll go on with construction. There is no set timeline. As you can see, it is kind of TBD because a lot of this was contingent on the transportation surtax. And that doesn't mean the project isn't going to happen. It just means we don't know exactly what our time frame is. There is funding for certain parts of the corridor. So south of Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's like the Heights project from FDOT. So there's a race grant that the city secured there. So there might be some transit enhancements in that area. And then there's the Fowler area as well that we're working on right now. So that's my piece. Thank you for your time. Again, my name is Jesus. You can see my contact info there on the left. Yes, I do have a 10 o'clock, but I'm happy to take questions and comments right now.
Questions for Jesus? Anyone? It appears none, Jesus. No questions for you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Well, you're a great crowd. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
So this is the third portion of the presentation. My name is Alvaro Gabaldon. I'm here with Jay Collins, our Planning Commission staff. And we are, the planner is working on the vision study that the Planning Commission is undertaking in this area. And so there's significant overlap between the area Jesus is looking at in Amber. So that's why the three of us have been presenting together to the TPOs, committees, and to the public, and just trying to coordinate as much as we can to make this cohesive for everybody. So some background of the area. Most of you may know, but Fowler Avenue is right at the intersection of Hillsborough County and City of Tampa boundaries. I should say unincorporated county and City of Tampa. So that provides a lot of unique land use challenges, both for businesses and residents in the community there. The timing of this study with FDOT and HARD is very beneficial, and we're also working very closely with the Innovation District, the redevelopment group with the University Mall, and other partners like USF. So the purpose of this study is to develop a vision plan that enables equitable redevelopment, essentially. So the deliverables include a vision plan, but then also some strategies for implementation that'll be in a report delivered by our consultant. And we're really hoping to integrate a lot of the land, not only the land use recommendations and changes that we're going to be making, but also the transportation visions that Jesus and Amber are also looking at. And so there's, I guess, I would say there's going to be a look at how the current land use is working together between the two jurisdictions that are right there on Fowler, and then that's going to sort of expand out into maybe some of those transportation visions. Here's a map of our study area. So you can see it's a little different than the other two studies, but there's, again, significant overlap. So, and just wanted to point out that USF is not included in the study map boundary, mostly because of statistics. So when you look at things like income or housing, when you extract, project that across the land area, having USF there kind of skews our study area. In terms of some existing conditions and just some overview of the numbers within the yellow outline. So there's about a little over 15,000 people living in that portion. There's about a little over 6,000 households. Average household size is a little under 2.5 people per household. 25% of these households do not have a vehicle, and there is a significant amount of jobs within this yellow outline area. So you can start thinking of things. I mean, we've all pointed out that transit is very important for this area, not only for people who live here, but people who come to these jobs, who commute to these jobs. So, Fowler is both a destination, but it's also like a place people cross over to get in between interstates. So there's just so many variables here that we're trying to account for, and obviously involve the community with when we create a vision. So another pertinent fact to point out about the area, specifically within the yellow, again, is that the household income, the median household income within the yellow is significantly lower than the entire Tampa Bay sort of MSA median household income. So again, you pair that with low vehicle ownership, and you can start painting a picture of how hard it is for, say, somebody who lives in this area to navigate around it, or just get out into the other opportunities that are outside of the study area and jobs and education resources, that sort of thing. So, I mean, these insights are also reflected in the comments that we've collected that I'll give an overview of a little later. But those are sort of characterizing our early view of the study area. We're currently in a phase of public engagement that we are calling visioning and community value. So this week, actually, on December 13th and 14th, we had open houses where the community was encouraged to share their perspective with us, answer some very broad questions like, what do you like about Fowler? What don't you like? Commissioner Myers, thank you so much for coming to our event at the University Mall. It's great to see you there. So that's very much a kickoff of our broader engagement. In January, we're going to start becoming more mobile. We're looking for community events to go to, table at. We're going to be doing walk-in talks and focus groups. And then a sort of a third layer of that is we're hoping to recruit ambassadors, I'll say, So like neighborhood leaders, community leaders, and provide them with the resources that they can hopefully give presentations like this, or if anything, just hand out flyers in their area. So that's that vision toolkit. So in lead up to our this week, which was our open house week, we put these signs across the study area. We noticed, direct mail noticed all the households within the study area and households within 250 feet of the boundary. And we got a great turnout, so we're pretty pleased with everybody that came out. Okay, so I guess I'll just sort of speak more about the open house. So yeah, so on the 13th, we went to the University Mall. The Innovation Partnership were very kind to lend us their theater. So we took advantage of a lot of the just natural traffic of the food court of the mall, in addition to all of our noticing and marketing that we did. So we got, I think, maybe like a little over 100 people across 2 presentations, got a decent amount of signups and flyers handed out. And then on the 14th, we had a virtual open house, and so we had about 48 people attend that. We're still collecting, or I should say like archiving our responses from the in-person meeting, because we had a huge map that people could put stickers on and everything. But I do have some results from our virtual open house here that I can share. So one of the questions we asked was, what destination do you travel to most frequently within the yellow study area? And so a majority of people actually said work, and then home was a close second place. Then we did some like just single word questions. So we asked people to describe the study area in 1 word. An overwhelming amount of them described it as disconnected and unwelcoming. And you can, there's a lot of other words here that are sort of related to the parking lots and vehicle traffic sort of dominating the area. The impression that people get when they're in that area. The next question that we asked was, what would they like to see in the future? So here, there's a lot of words about walkability, green space, safety, connected. So you can kind of get the gist of how people are feeling about the area currently. What challenges do you see in the study area? The #1 response here was traffic. Another question here is, what do you want to see more of within the study area? #1 response here was bike paths and walkability. So you can again see both the numbers and the people are speaking to like the difficulty that there is being in Fowler, not just driving through it, which I would say, it's kind of how it's set up right now. It's very much a drive-through area. So those are some quick responses. We'll be, like I said, compiling with our in-person responses and putting everything on our project website. And that will be available to the public and anyone who visits the site. So, we're in Q4 2023. I mentioned we're in the community values phase of our project. So those are those 3 tiers there. We have community values, corridor vision, and then redevelopment plan. So by winter 2024, at that point, we'll have a vision plan and redevelopment strategies and implementation, and hopefully some policies to update the comprehensive plan for perhaps both the city of Tampa and the county. Because again, that's another big aspect of the study is how do we get those 2 regulatory land use sets like working together. So the outcomes of the study that we hope to accomplish are continued coordination with HART and FDOT, both for the public and for committees such as yourselves, and developing that vision plan and those strategies, getting some policies to update the comp plans with, and continuing to educate the community and engage them with this process. We've got a lot of interesting interactions. A lot of people don't know what comprehensive planning is, and adding like HART and FDOT to that can be overwhelming. But again, that's why we're all here speaking together in a coordinated way. And Amber was actually at our open house, which is great, so people could see how we're working together. This is that project page I mentioned. So the results of our public engagement will be here. The study will again be going to winter 2024. So this project page will be evolving as we do more outreach as we get portions of the deliverables and things to share with the public. So please bookmark this page. Sign up for email updates if you're inclined. I kind of mentioned next steps, and again, we've been giving this presentation since November, so we've kind of accomplished the November, December steps, and so January is where we really start doing the boots on the ground kind of engagement. So again, my name's Alvaro Gabalden, and Jay Collins is here as well, and our contact info is available on the slide and the Planning Commission website.
Okay, do we have anyone that's any questions? Yes, Indira.
Good morning, Alvaro. I'm Indira Chambers. I would love for you to give me an idea about who were your attendees at the open house.
Sure.
Because I want to see whether or not the people that were there represent a good cross section of,
Right.
you know, business owners, commuters, and residents, because they all, you know, are involved in Fowler.
Yes. That's something we collected via paper.
Okay.
So I don't have that off the top of my head, but again, as we filter through all that data, you know, I could send you an email, or, you know, again, it'll be on the project website. We hope to sort of summarize everything that happened.
And I think, you know, your study, all is not lost, because if you're going to do boots on the ground, whoever you identify as having missed, you can
Exactly.
always, you know, and hold them with the same questions.
Yes,
Because I think it's important for you to be able to see it from different perspectives.
absolutely.
It'll give you a better idea of the true temperatures.
Absolutely, yeah. That's our goal is to get a representative group of interaction and responses. We made a really great connection with a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, who is a very active churchgoer in the area, and they just got a new, I guess, priest, for lack of a better word, and he's very excited about encouraging his parishioners to be civically. So, you know, we're always looking for opportunities like that to go present to people like that, to equip them with a vision kit, and again, get those boots on the ground.
Right.
Yeah,
And
thank
since you said that Tampa Innovation has been supportive, maybe you can connect with them, because Walla Ingram have
Yeah.
a good list of businesses in the area that are really involved in
Absolutely.
that innovation project.
So we were on their newsletter,
Okay.
and she shared her email list with us.
Okay,
Yeah, Bonnie's been very helpful in this process.
Awesome.
Thank you, Indira.
I have I'll be brief as I can. When you began, you mentioned that you excluded the USF area.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
as you go through this, I can understand you want to get the community and the people who live. I think you really got a challenge, because if you're talking Fowler, students and persons at USF are going to use Fowler. They have vehicles different from the community, so you're still going to have an impact, even though you're getting information from the community. So with the difference in demographics, the difference in vehicles, you're going to get one set of bit of information if you're visioning. You're going to vision that community, but there's a whole new community at USF that is completely different from what you're getting. So how do you make that work? Because all of them are going to use Fowler.
Yeah.
And for this particular board, I think in the community, those people who would be disadvantaged are in our community. They may not be as much in the USF area. So, I mean, are you visioning what that USF community is going to impact this, or do you take that into consideration?
Yeah, so.
Or how do you work those two? Because you can't separate.
Right. So I guess semantically, they're not on this map because these numbers that I showed you, the population of USF is not in these numbers. But in terms of participation with the study, giving us responses and feedback for the vision, the community is invited to do that. If you go to USF, you're not excluded from that aspect. I was just simply, I guess, mentioning that when we look at this statistically, when we look at the census, we look at the demographic data that the Planning Commission collects in this yellow outline, USF's not in it Because when I tell you that 25% of households don't have a vehicle, I'm telling you about that yellow outline. Because if I put USF there, that'd be very high.
I get that.
Right.
But persons without a vehicle have different needs and
Exactly, yes.
situations than people who have vehicles.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to get a sense of how that's vision.
The university is part of the consulting group for this. So Taryn Sabia with the Florida Center for Community Design and Research. So her students were there. We had USF students who were at the mall for no reason other than to eat, who stopped to talk to us. The mall got noticed. There were signs at Fowler and McKinley. So the mall, or excuse me, Fowler and McKinley for the university. The university is very much a thought in this. What we want to make sure is that when we have Fowler Avenue as the mall, Fowler Avenue as the apartment complex, the student housing that's being built right now at 30th and Fowler, how we can make safe connections for those areas into the university. So the University of South Florida has a master plan for making its connections throughout its university, and you can see the spines as they come out. So it's part of our responsibility in this is to match where they come out and make sure that all parties are speaking to each other about just that. Just like we had people who talked about, hey, I like that there's a pedestrian overpass. Can we put multiple pedestrian overpasses on Fowler Avenue? Well, it's an idea, so you write that down. So that's part of what they were having conversations with us about. So I want to make sure that, yeah, the idea of what happens on the university is certainly a thought process here. It's not forgotten in any way. In fact, we want to enhance it, understand it, and run with it.
Yes, Glenn.
I am getting kind of a couple different thoughts. First, Councilman Schisler's comments in the beginning keep resonating with me as I look at these study areas and things. And so I'm thinking about those transitions. But I'm also hearing like a couple different things, and I'm not sure how you're going to pull them together. But what on the one hand, I'm hearing the sense of going through, the sense of passing through. And again, to Councilman Schisler's point, interstate to interstate, there's a lot of that that's going on. However, everything going on in the area, and from the people you've spoken with and the comments you shared, and actually the subtle comment that Councilman Schisler made, there are people that live there, and there's a sense of place that it's hard to picture how this is addressing any sense of place. Now, I do understand that part of it is it's emergent there, although Temple Terrace has, a sense of place and community. The university area, it's developing with the innovation project, the whole uptown stuff, soaring city, that's all coming about, and the visioning that's coming out of that group developing the mall in terms of helping create something along those blocks from the mall to the interstate is interesting, and they have a lot going on. But how are these studies, I mean, are they just going through, or are you suddenly trying to think about addressing the sense of place that is being kind of brought about by the people living there?
Yeah. Yeah, so Glenn, some of what you said, what Councilman says, it's very true. So when we do a visioning process, what we're asking is folks to think about the vision for their own family. Think about where they see their family going generationally. And then we tell them, now think about that with your community. Because Glenn, you have the vision for your family, but what's the vision for your community? That's a shared vision with the people around you. So that's the first thing that we're asking folks to be able to do with us is what is a shared vision for your area that you have? So we're getting that sense of place conversation from folks. Now, the next step is the issue of us as professional planners and what we were asked to do by the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County, which is a unified land use approach for Fowler Avenue between I-275 and 52nd Street. That's what we were asked by the city of Tampa and unincorporated Hillsborough County. So I have to get that vision from the people that live along there, and then I have to be able to translate that vision into policy with some of the ideas that already exist there. The East Fowler land use study, which was completed years ago along that area, one of the outcomes of that was a specific land use that was put on the mall, right? So we have to look at that land use and we have to ask questions of that land use and say, Is that something that if it ever moved outside of unincorporated Hillsborough County and went into the city of Tampa, does it justify the vision that the residents on the south side of Fowler have? The same thing could be said about the Green Tech Corridor. If you don't know what the Green Tech Corridor is, you know where the Yingling Brewery is, all that industrial space that's in there. That's part of a corridor in there to allow for a variety of different employment generating uses that might not necessarily be thought of in an industrial zone. So then we think of that same thing. Can we have some of those employment generating uses in unincorporated Hillsborough County? And does that actually match up with the vision of the people that live there? And in the end, we want those visions to coalesce into some sort of a policy so that when we do have development that comes in, that development looks seamless between the city and the county, so that both the appointed and elected officials, as well as the communities, as well as the developers, see what they're doing and understand what they're doing. And all parties involved go, I get it, I understand it. Thanks for bringing that to our community. Hopefully that understands. And to the councilman's point, and I know we're running long, to the councilman's point, I just wanted to say that to 52nd Street, Temple Terrace, that is something we're very sensitive to. And we hope that we have a second phase in this. And that second phase would look at some of the land use issues that you see with Temple Terrace in unincorporated Hillsborough County moving further down east. All of this kind of gets segmented at times due to, well, unfortunately, the dollars that we have to do certain things.
Can I follow up on that? Unless I'm misunderstanding, she said there are additional studies going on.
That is a land use, or excuse me, a transportation study that is going on for Fowler Avenue. What we're doing is particularly a vision study for land uses along that area.
I know we spent quite a bit of time on this, and I'm going to ask if you have any additional questions before your questions to Josh, and that he can get them to the planning commission staff. Thank you so much for your presentation, and we're going to move right into the agenda. Okay, on our action items, Josh.
Hey everybody, Josh Barber, TPO staff. We have the 2023 schedule of monthly meetings for the TPO. We are recommending continuing our current meeting time dates. That is the fourth Friday of every other month starting in February, save for December, which will be on the 15th due to the Christmas holiday. And I am just requesting an approval of those meeting times and ordering to the TPO.
Second. So motion by Councilman Schisler and Nancy Martin. Okay, anyone oppose the motion? Anyone opposes? Hearing none, that motion passes. And we'll go to B, FDOT Tentative Work Program and TPO comments. Suzanne?
Good morning, this is Suzanne Monk with FDOT. I'm just trying to see, can you guys see my screen or no?
We're seeing your
portion.
My what?
We're seeing your email screen.
Okay, let me just start. So can you see it now?
Yes.
Can we just hit the highlights, Suzanne, in the interest of time, please?
Yes, actually, we're actually not going over the full highlights. We just brought a couple key projects to discuss. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about the tentative work program 5 years that's coming up, fiscal year 24 to 28. The tentative work program is actually a 5-year program plan of projects that include public transit, seaport, airport, transportation planning, road, roadway design, right-of-way, and construction activities. Right now, we are currently in fiscal year 23, and it goes through fiscal year 27, and then it's currently adopted. Right now, we are we're about halfway through fiscal year 23, but every year on June 30th, the current year, the work program ends. And on July 1st, year 2 moves up to become the current year. So fiscal year 24 will be the new current year, and the new 5th year will be added along with funding that's allocated to the next phases of projects in fiscal year 28. So currently we're going to look at the tentative work program. This is just going to outline the projects that we have worked to program. They will later be sent to the Florida legislative session and then reviewed for the governor for he will review and sign off on the projects then. At which, once he signs, the tentative work program will then become the adopted work program. Just a quick overview, when we are programming, we look to program and preserve the existing work program. So any projects that might have a cost increase or things like that of that nature, we would look to fund those first. And then second, we would look to fund next phases of any of the projects that were currently programmed. So if Hillsborough County had a design project, we would look to fund the right-of-way or the construction in the next cycle. And then thirdly, we would look at adding those new projects. Next, we would, when we're actually programming projects, we're looking at the TPO's priorities, as well as the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance regional priorities, along with the FDOT and CIS priorities. Okay, so the next couple pages are only going to be the new projects, newly funded projects, any deferred projects, or any projects of interest. So if I don't mention a project that maybe have been previously programmed by DOT, it just means that there's no changes to that project at this time. So the first project that we have is the #1 priority list ask for the Hillsborough TPO, which is the transportation planning. We were able to add planning funds in fiscal year 28. The next 3 projects are transit projects, and we were able to, these were all very high on the list for the TPO. The HART facility construction, we were able to move the capital grant from the bus replacements over to the new HART facility for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. HART also received capital grant in fiscal year 28 for bus stop capital repairs. And then HART will also receive bus replacement capital grant in fiscal year 28. A couple of the bike ped projects that were high on the list and priorities were Marshall Middle School sidewalk. We were able to program this in 24 for design and construction in 27. This is a city of Plant City, and we are going to construct it on their behalf because they're not LAP certified. And the same thing with Tomlin Middle School. We were able to fund that for the same years as well. Another Hillsborough TPO priority was the Hillsborough County sidewalk gaps. We were able to add construction in fiscal year 28 with the new carbon reduction funds that came from the federal infrastructure bill. The department's actually doing an analysis now on state roads to figure out where those sidewalk gaps are in Hillsborough County, and then we will look to put together a plan on when we're going to do design, and the construction obviously is funded in 28. The next project was a TPO priority and also a City of Temple Terrace hot topic, Fowler Avenue from 56th Street to east of I-75. We were able to add design in fiscal year 24 and construction in 28, and this will allow for the sidewalk on the north side of the limits. Also, 2 more bike peds. Green Artery Segment E and Green Artery Segment D, we were able to fund these transportation alternative projects through the city of Tampa. They are currently designing them, and we were able to add fiscal year 24 funds for construction. In regards to complete streets, we had 3 projects that we were able to work on this cycle. West Bush from North Dom Avery Highway to North Nebraska, we were actually able to advance the construction to fiscal year 26. And then part of the Heights Mobility Project, North Tampa from Florabraska and Palm to MLK Junior Boulevard. We were able to add construction in fiscal year 24. And then a Lois Ave from West Cleveland to Boy Scout, we were able to fund the construction in fiscal year 28, and the design will be completed by the city of Tampa. In regards to operation projects, we were also very fortunate to be able to get the Boy Scout Boulevard from East Manhattan to west of Manhattan, the construction funding program for that intersection in fiscal year 24. We're also going to be able to put intersection signals at 301 at Harney, and then 301 at Stacy Road and McIntosh. And we're going to be able to do that in fiscal year 24. And then the city of, or sorry, not the city, Hillsborough County was awarded a county incentive grant program grant for construction at US 301 at Palm River Road in fiscal year 26. Another big project that the TPO has on their priority list, I-75 at Gibsonton. This DDI, diverging diamond intersection, the PE, which is design, was advanced to fiscal year 24. And then Hillsborough County applied for a Transportation Regional Incentive Grant Program grant for the Big Bend Road. Construction was able to be funded in $13 million in fiscal year 24, which is huge. We do have 2 projects that came out of the federal infrastructure bill EV master plan. The department is going to be implementing chargers around the district. After an EV master plan was looked at, the central office has programmed a couple projects. You'll see here I-4 EV charger deployment and US 41 at 60 EV charging deployment. We have programmed the capital grants and along with the operational grants. There is a solicitation that is going to be going out for people to put in where they would like to, or the actual, it's a little complicated. So the actual companies that will be installing the chargers are going to be solicited, and that should be coming up soon. So we should have more information on these coming up, but also these are just generalized locations at this point. We don't have like a pinpoint location for these just yet, but more information definitely coming on these. And the I-4 truck parking facility construction was advanced to fiscal year 25 due to the department being able to get an infra grant from the federal government. So that concludes all of the highlights that we wanted to bring to your attention today. This is a total funding over 5 years of $2.8 billion. So here's the breakdown of all the different costs if you guys want to give it a look. We do like to point out that the bike ped is at 18.67, and that looks a little low. However, it's very hard for us to, those are standalone bike peds. That's not including any of the bike ped improvements that are being made under complete streets or anything that might be included in a resurfacing project, or if we're adding anything on a capacity project. So that number is not all inclusive there. And we wanted to give this to you now prior to public comments being due on December 23rd. There should be a flyer in your agenda for you with our website. If you would like to make a public comment, we welcome you to do that, or at the end I can answer any questions that you may have. January 22nd is when the MPO will have to submit any objections that they have. We'll be taking this to the board January 11th, I believe. And then in the spring of 2023, we will take this all-inclusive District 7 list of work program projects to the legislative and FTC, and they will review, they'll pass it on to the governor. Once he reviews and approves it, again, July 1st, it would become the adopted work program. Here, I just want to thank you guys and hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and allowing me to have some time. Sorry, I'm trying to go fast. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Again, this is our website in case you want to submit any public comments. They are due by the 23rd. And then again, we always like to close with a safety slide. Basically, stop speeding before it stops you. We're just trying to get everybody to slow down. Everybody seems to be in a hurry these days. So at this time, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Has any questions? It appears that no one has any questions. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item C, the Northside Behavior Health Coordination Contract. Karen Smith.
Good morning. The next three items are our coordination contracts, which are required for agencies that receive 50/10 funding from DOT. All of these that are being presented this morning currently have contracts that would expire in within the next month. So they need to enter into new contracts. They all currently receive 5310 funding and are expected to apply for continued funding. Northside Behavioral Health Center is the first agency. They've had a coordination contract with 50% funding for years and years. They provide transportation for their outpatient and their residential programs, for a variety of programs that they have there. They provide transportation for their clients to go to medical appointments, for psychosocial services, for their case management services that they receive at Northside Mental, what's it called, Northside Mental Health, Northside Behavioral Health, despite the fact that they changed their name years ago. And for services that their clients are receiving in the community for social service appointments, to apply for assistance somewhere to go, for recreational therapy, for in-home visits, and other activities. They have 15 vehicles, and they served last year 300 unduplicated clients and provided 1,567 trips. Their average cost per trip was $56.84. They're mainly individual trips. You'll see a distinction in cost per trip in the next agency, which provides. So we just need approval from this board to enter into a new contract with Northside Behavioral Health and the contract itself.
Just for the record, can you state the period? Contract period.
The contract period is going to be for 3 years, so it'll be starting the date that it goes to the board in January.
Have a motion. Okay, we have a motion by Glenn Brown, second by Councilman Schistler. Anyone oppose the motion? Anyone opposes? And that motion is carried. Thank you so much. Continue on, Karen.
Next up is also a coordination contract with the Apollo Training Center. They provide transportation for their clients who are going mainly to their day children programs for persons with developmental disabilities. As I said, you'll see a distinct difference in the cost per trip because they're mainly group trips. They're all going into a program at this time to go home together, so it's different type of transportation. They have 18 vehicles and serve 76 clients, so it's repetitive. You know, it's clients going every day to their programs. They provided last year 53,598 trips, and average cost per trip was $535. So again, I just need approval for us to enter into a new contract. The time period will be the same.
Have a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Schistler and a second by Ivan Martin. No, Ian Martin. Yes. Okay. Anyone opposes the motion? Anyone opposes? That motion is carried. Thank you so much. Continue on, Karen.
And the third coordination contract is with Metropolitan Ministries. They provide transportation for the families and children for their residential facility. They're either providing services for them to go, into the facility, or for their children who are at their on-site school. The children need to go to activities. The children need to go there to transport. So last year they have 4 vehicles. They have plus vehicles. They supported 419 persons and provided 598 trips. I would expect that's going to go up some this year. I think last year they were still a little less. I think they were having more of a COVID effect in the last year, because my figures are from July through June, and they are. their average cost per trip was $62.17. If you need,
Second. Okay. And move to approve. Here we have several, that's second.
Pick one.
I'll pick one, so, I don't know, I heard it on this side, but I can't see your name.
Chambers.
Chambers, no, I was thinking, so, okay. So we have a motion by Ian Martin, second by Indira Chambers. Anyone opposes the motion? Any opposes? That motion is carried. Don't go anywhere, Karen, stay right there, because we have a status report for the Sunshine Line
Oh,
update.
actually, Chair.
Yep.
Okay,
So Jerry's taking with Sunshine, I'll be in the status report this morning. So I'll start off with our tri-county cross county trip with Dr. G. Kittle Bay. It was approved on 11/16 with the VOCC. So we rolled that out. We've referred about 40 individuals so far within this last month. And with DSA, they're looking at probably like a 2-week turnaround for the processing to get all the trips running and get them set up. So that's in motion, that's going. So we'll monitor that, we'll give our monthly reports, and we'll present on that in the next meeting of kind of where we're sitting, how many trips we're seeing, kind of what trend we might get with this first couple of months. So excited that that's off the ground, running. And there's also flyers down at the table down there. So if you didn't grab one on your way out. Some information about that program. And recruiting, hiring. So for us, well, we just closed out our recruitment. We have another one that's going to post next week. We've worked with HR getting things out there. And with this next recruitment coming up next week, it'll close first of the year. And that final recruitment should take us to about a 94% driver capacity. And if you remember, last year we were down to in the low 50s. So we're moving in the right direction. And I'm excited to get that rolling and continue to just grow for next year. And talking about next year, that's going to be our 2 key things that we're focusing on is that getting our services back to pre-COVID levels, and then really focusing on that growth and improvement, getting our Saturday service back up and running as well, doing it effectively and efficiently. So those are our big things for next year. I met with our communications team with that outreach and with the other things. We're looking at promotional video outreach, different things, targeting the community and getting out there as much as we can to get new clients, to get our trips up and to get there. And then let's see, we're staying steady. Our trips, we're sitting at about 19% higher trips per month as we were at the same time last year. So that trend continues to be about 20% more. And as we get more drivers, we're anticipating that to keep growing as well. And then the final thing I had, we talked about the last meeting with our complaints that we received from the annual review. And I went ahead and did a little breakdown that was requested. So there's 706 surveys that were sent out for the door-to-door program, and we had 287 people respond. And of those 287 responses, there were 94 comments that were received. Of those comments, there were 13 that were listed as complaints. So I categorized those into different areas of our service and what we're doing. That breakdown looks like there were 3 that were discussing the window for being ready, the 90-minute window prior to the trip and the 35-minute return window. We'd like that to be shorter. We had 1 complaint that had to do with a late pickup. We were late for their return. 1 complaint that stated that due to the driver shortage, due to the driver shortage, I know I can't get early returns as much as possible as we did prior. So, if people book their trips for a 10 a.m. return, we have that 35-minute window. If they're early, they can call us and we'll try to squeeze in, move our routes around so they're not waiting. We can't always make that work, but we used to be able to do it a lot easier. And so that's one thing that they were complaining on there. I had 5 complaints, and these are these complaints right now where these are we're coordinating with our operations office, our dispatch team, where it was on operations moves of 5 of them. 2 of them were in relation to behavior of drivers being rude. 2 that they were giving no-shows, which ended up being a communication as I moved to research some of that stuff, where they called to cancel the trip, but for some reason they never made it, and whether, who knows, but they were upset about that. And then one about a cologne and perfume of our drivers, just in particular about the smell and things of those. So those are operational things. We're working with our paratransit manager to just, set reminders out, make sure that we complete those tasks. One of the complaints were with, Hart, when they changed their, some of their routes, sometimes we lose clients, we gain clients, and it was a facility that are now on Hart's route and their Hart Plus service, and they just were upset that they couldn't ride with us. And then two of the complaints, the final two, were upset that we were questioning and validating the length of the trip for when they were booking them with going a long distance, and just our CSR team, they have a script they follow, make sure we're going to the closest select facility, things like that, and being good stewards with our shared ride service. So those were the breakdown of all those. And of that was 14% of the response and the comments we received were complaints. So we're addressing those, and when we meet back again, we'll hopefully have some resolution on specific things. I give you exactly what we do with our next driver meeting to address these specific things. And then on the comments for the bus pass program, those complaints broke down. There was 425 responses out of 1,035 surveys that were sent. And of those, there were 94 comments that were received. And the highlight of those, and I won't go down through everything like I did for us, but I have this data available, and I'll work with Art with these. The top four we had were 9 that were discussing how they were late. So they're on performance. 5 of them were due to cleanliness with the vehicles. And then we had flamingo card issues. So we're swiping the cards. Sometimes those aren't working. Some of the change in their routes. And then wait times and no shader seats at some of the bus stops. So we'll compile all this and work with Art and share the information and present on some of the action items that we're going to do moving forward. So, and that is it for my my update. Any questions?
One question. When do you anticipate adding the Saturday service? I know we talked about that last time. And you said this year, but do you have a date or approximation?
Yes, I don't have a date, but I will definitely have a better idea come our next meeting, to be honest. I don't want to throw something out there. For me, as soon as possible is really what we're looking at. But, some of those challenges I mentioned prior, we've got, I want to make sure we can cover and provide service throughout Hillsborough County in those areas. Traffic and time travel is time travel. Travel is very significantly more than it was 2.5 years ago. So we're seeing trips that 3 miles are taking 15 minutes. So that takes away some of our capacity. And so I'll have, hopefully I will provide a better time frame at our next meeting. I just don't want to throw something out there because I really don't know. I just know it is our top priority. So.
Side note, I did miss cook traffic. For addressing these issues.
So I have to double check now. The person that we had no longer works there. So I know my customer service manager has a contact as a replacement, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'll have to reach out and make sure if there's any issues. Absolutely.
Gloria?
You kind of said that there are changes hard, but my question is, did you, on Sunshine Line, did you lose, because the changes in Hart, did you lose a lot of customers?
Mike.
So with the route changes, that we didn't lose a ton of customers, but it's just every now and then it just happens. So there wasn't the amount of customers wasn't significant, but there were still some of the changes.
For it later, if you want a little piece of the side.
Hold on one second, the person online, please. Going to be respectful. Gloria, did he answer your question? Gloria?
Yes.
Did he answer your question? Pretty much.
Sort of.
Okay. Maybe y'all can get together.
Yeah.
Okay, the person online is, wishes to speak. Gloria, can you tell us? Jason, could you tell us who online wishes to speak?
I believe that was an accidental unmute.
Okay, if you can mute everyone, and then if they raise their hand, and can let me know, I certainly would appreciate it.
They are.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
You did mention that you would get back to us in terms of those complaints, whatever the resolution. Did you give a time? Is that next meeting or?
Yes, next meeting.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, we appreciate all you do. We know that we're doing that survey and responding to that many concerns from our citizens. We certainly appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing the report at our next meeting. Let's see. We have 6B, Health Buddies Program Update. Area. Come on down.
Thank you. All right, let me get this set up. Josh, would you be able to give me a
Jason, are you there to make sure?
The podium should be looking to confirm as a presenter, and then it should come up.
Jason's not showing the, oh, hold on. Okay, there. I think I got it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And Jerry, I'm going to want to know a little bit more about that time travel, okay?
Absolutely.
You know my pilots are really interested in the time travel for the Sunshine Line. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. My name is Aria Garling. I'm a Seniors in Service of Tampa Bay, specifically the Health Buddies program. So how many of you have ever volunteered? I know we're in a room of servant leaders. You guys have volunteered, right? So Seniors in Service was created over 38 years ago because you know what happens after you retire? You work so hard to get to retirement and then you get really, really bored because there's nothing to do. So what we found is by engaging older adults, specifically those that are at that retirement age, we're able to keep them connected into the community. And we do that by matching them with different volunteer opportunities. You guys may be familiar with the foster grandparents program where we place grandparents into the classrooms and help mentor children. We also have veteran programs, peer companionship. But the big picture is keeping people that are 55 and older engaged in the community. Now, Health Buddies is a part of the Seniors in Service umbrella. Our Health Buddies program really looks to reduce the number of adults who are seeking unnecessary medical care due to social isolation, loneliness, and fear. We engage trained volunteers who are providing that support to the isolated adults by telephone, and that's going to be empowering the patients to self-manage their health. So how are we doing this? So big picture, Health Buddies is completely free. It's 100% grant funded. It is a 12-week program. It's telephone reassurance, and we're using companionship as medicine. We do administer surveys to ensure that what we're doing is effective, and it shows improvement of knowledge of chronic illness across time. So that's a quick overview, but why Health Buddies? We want to reduce the proportion of adults that are unnecessarily seeking that emergency assistance. So if you go to a hospital and you see a whole room full of people in the emergency room, if there are multiple people there just for companionship, that's using resources that really could be better used to those that are really in need at that time. So through our program, we're able to match those clients with volunteers who want to be there for them, that want to speak with them. And I don't know about you, but when I talk to one of my friends, I hear what they say much louder than when I talk to a doctor or a physician. And that's because learning from non-authority figures is a lot less intimidating and people will follow through a lot better. So what are our health buddies doing? They are encouraging physician recommendations on diet, exercise, medication adherence, medical appointment reminders and treatments, and when to call a healthcare provider before there's an emergency. So we're really focusing on prevention. Who are these health buddies? They're 18 and older. They are background check. They are seniors and service volunteers, so those that are 55 and older. We partner with USF. We have students from the College of Aging Studies, Health Service Corps, College of Psychology, and community referrals. They commit to that 12 weeks. They make multiple calls per week to their client. So these are the clients that have those chronic conditions that would be taking up time in the hospitals. But they're able to talk to their buddies over the phone. They feel connected. They feel less isolated. Now, throughout this time, our volunteers are completing weekly modules and communicating about any mental or physical health concerns, but also connecting them with different community resources. So as I mentioned, the volunteers are receiving lots of training across this 12 weeks. So specifically medication adherence, nutrition, exercise safety, financial health, and schemes to be aware of, diabetes and mindfulness and holistic approach to wellness. So who are our clients? Anyone that's 18 and older is able to be a client. They have chronic conditions. They live in Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough counties. They have a phone and they want to receive phone calls. Yes, I put in want to receive phone calls because that is definitely a key point. Thank you for picking up on that. We also provide training for our clients. So imagine that you're an isolated older adult. You do not have friends or family that come by. You're feeling disconnected. Well, what do? We actually are able to bring them technology and we train them on how to use that technology. So if for some reason they aren't able to get to see their doctor in person, we're training them to be able to use telehealth. We're teaching them how to use Zoom so that they can be connected to the community in every way possible. The benefits to our clients is that support, that companionship. They're making the community connections and it's an enhanced quality of life. And for the interest of time, I'm going to skip the video, but the price of loneliness to taxpayers, this looks at a study in Dallas, Texas, and the overuse of emergency rooms is astronomical. People are using the emergency rooms as a place to seek friendship. So in order for us to save taxpayers money, we want to find a way to end that burden. So the medical providers we're mitigating those unnecessary phone calls. We're reducing requests for a hospital readmission. I'll show you the numbers on that in a few slides. We have improved patient outcomes, and we're creating a healthier community through patient self-management. So one of the stories that comes to mind, and especially in light of the room that I'm speaking with, is I had a volunteer named Melanie and a client named Victoria. Victoria is an older, isolated woman. Melanie is a young college student. Through their phone calls, Melanie had noticed that Victoria stopped going to her doctor's appointments. Big red flag there, right? She has a chronic condition. She has to go to her appointments. So through some questions, Melanie discovered that the transportation that had been set up through Miss Victoria's insurance company kept canceling on her. And this wasn't 24 hours notice. This was a couple hours before Miss Victoria was supposed to be at her doctor's appointments. Through some more questions, Melanie was able to discover that Miss Victoria didn't have access to transportation at all. She didn't have a friend to call. She didn't have the means to call a quick Uber. So what did she do? Melanie reached out to me and I directed her to the Sunshine Line. Happy to say that Miss Victoria now uses the Sunshine Line. She doesn't complain about perfume or cologne though, so we're okay there.
Write that one down.
But Miss Victoria is able to attend her doctor's appointments, and that was a direct result of the companionship, because of the listening skills and our knowledge of the resources that are available in our community. So that's the direct reflection of what you all are doing. Another one that is really sweet is that our clients' pets also benefit from Health Buddies. So another one of our volunteers was speaking with her client, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Smith was saying that she didn't have the means to be able to pay for her pet's food as well as her own food, and she was trying to figure out a budget. So one of the resources is the Tampa Humane Society. Now, the Tampa Humane Society is able to deliver a 50-pound bag of dog food at the beginning of every month. So our volunteer was able to connect her with that, and now there's no more need to try and budget who gets to eat the dog or Ms. Smith. We're able to make those types of connections. This is a sweet comment. It was, I love talking to my buddy. It shows that someone cares. It helped me with loneliness, encouraged me, and it was nice to have someone to share stories with. It felt good to laugh with something again, and that's from a Health Buddies client. One of the most startling statistics that I found was that perpetual isolation is more detrimental to your health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Simmer on that. Prolonged isolation can take up to 15 years off of your life. By providing the services that we're doing, we're able to make sure that those who want to have somebody there are able to have somebody, regardless if they have family or friends nearby, regardless if they are able to leave the house or not. We're able to make those connections through our Health Buddies program. So a couple of statistics from this past year. Last year, we enrolled 55 clients. Our target number is 45. This year, we are at 87. Last year, we had trained 66 volunteer Health Buddies. This year, we're at 76. And the volunteers had made a total of 1,193 phone calls last year. I'm still totaling up those numbers, you guys, but it is well over 2,000 calls this year. We do use the Kessler 6 to be able to see improvement in mental health. This is a quick graph of what that looks like. So what we do is we do an initial, a midpoint, and a final survey to see how our clients feel. What you can see from this is that by the end of our program, by the end of 12 weeks, people feel less nervous. They feel more worthy. They feel less depressed, and they are less hopeless. And this is a direct result of conversations with a volunteer who cares. At the end of the 12 weeks, 64% of clients report improvement in their knowledge of their health condition. 85% report that they feel more capable of self-managing their condition from home. 94% did not have a hospital readmission. And 100% of clients reported that they did not have an emergency room visit for the same medical condition within those 12 weeks of Health Buddies. I am going to skip over this video, but if you said that you have volunteered in the past, I'm sure you can relate to this. Volunteering is as impactful to you as the volunteer as it is to the person or organization that you are volunteering with. And that's the exact same thing that we see from our volunteers. After Health Buddies, we have other programs such as Telepal, so continued phone call companionship. We love to get our clients engaged in other volunteer opportunities. So getting those isolated individuals connected into the community and being able to get out and maybe work over at one of the food pantries or finding ways to continue to give back to the community. And that is another area that you all help with, because these people who otherwise are not able to have that transportation are able to register through the Sunshine Line and get that transportation to allow them to be active members of our community. We have senior companions, and go ahead and recap. So our Health Buddies program matches those isolated and lonely adults that are suffering from anxiety, depression due to their chronic illnesses. We match them with a Health Buddy that's 18 and older to be that companion. By using companionship as medicine at the end of the 12 weeks, our clients feel more empowered to self-manage their health, and our volunteers always love to tell us stories about how they made a new friend, and usually their new best friend is an 8-year-old. It is the sweetest thing ever. So if you all know someone that could use that companionship, or if you know of an organization that we should be connected with, I would love for you to connect me or connect them with me, because as you could imagine, the hardest thing about finding isolated, lonely adults to connect the program with is that they're lonely and they're isolated, so they're not coming out. So if you are aware of an organization that could benefit from this, I would love to talk, and I would love to be able to make those connections. So then the community is able to have less isolated and lonely seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the award-winning presentation.
Thank you. I'll claim a trophy at the end.
And I'm pretty sure that we can help.
Are there any questions?
What is your name again?
Aria Garland.
Thank
Thank you.
Blaine, you got your hand up?
No.
Anyone have some questions? Okay, thank you so much. Moving right along. The old business, our next meeting, February 23rd, 2023. Anyone has any questions to come before the board before we get ready to adjourn? We'll have a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
The
McDonald's?
there's a McDonald's on, is that somebody's name or McDonald's the restaurant?
I
McDonald's.
think it's a McDonald's training center.
They're an adult day training.
You're in the happy holidays. Thank you.
Anyone needs a card?
Thank you.